Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Level Up Your Life show with me, Naomi Bryan, female empowerment coach. This show is for you if you want to build the most important relationship that you will ever have, the relationship that you have with yourself. In this episode, I'm going to discuss how I overcame years of crippling anxiety. I really want to share this message with people today, especially with what we're going through on this planet at the moment. It's currently September 2020 and we are balancing on the edge of another lockdown, and it is a time that for many people, many of my clients, many of the women, men, children that I speak to, a lot of us are feeling anxiety at the moment. So I wanted to share some tips about how I overcame my anxiety and how you can do the same too. In 2016, I was on a girls' holiday with some of my closest friends having an amazing time when all of a sudden I was completely struck down and hit by really severe panic attacks that unfortunately did ruin a huge part of my holiday. I had hit my emotional rock bottom with some things that were going on in my life at the time, and I knew that I couldn't carry on like this, and this sparked my journey in learning how to not only deal with the anxiety but get to the root cause of what was actually going on and happening for me. The panic attacks weren't just isolated to when I was actually away on holiday. They continued for a long time after I got home. Now, at the time I was tattooing eyebrows and I would just be sitting there doing my work, getting on with my day, and all of a sudden, for what seemed like no reason whatsoever, I would go into a full-blown panic attack. I'd got so used to living in this fight or flight mode of heightened anxiety that I actually couldn't remember what it felt like to not carry around this constant feeling of anxiousness all the time. One of the first things that I looked at was my diet and what I was actually putting into my body. Obviously, your body is your temple, so I thought that this was a really good place to start. As I did my research and started looking at what I was eating, what I was drinking, I realised that my body was probably not very alkaline. I was putting a lot of acids into me. So I looked at cutting out things like alcohol. Now, alcohol was one thing that when I actually drank, it would get rid of the anxiety, but the next day it would almost be worse, especially if I'd had too much to drink and had a little bit of a hangover. The second thing that I looked at was caffeine, and it did mean cutting out pretty much, whilst I was really quite bad with anxiety, all caffeine. So I drink a lot of Diet Coke. I switched that to caffeine-free Diet Coke. Tea and coffee, I instantly switched to decaf, and straight away I did start to notice that the anxiety wasn't as bad. If ever I'd have a coffee and kind of forget that I was meant to be having a decaf one, I would kind of be in that raised level of anxiety, more of a fight or flight mode rather than nice and neutral, nice and calm. I was out with my other half and he had also suffered from anxiety before in the past, and one of the best pieces of advice that he gave me was to come into an energy of acceptance about what was happening. Now, this might seem really hard if you're really struggling with anxiety, but for me, the more I tried to fight against it and kind of like cause more stress inside my environment, more stress inside my mind and my body, the worse the anxiety would get. So there was a level inside me that I had to go to, and this was a level of acceptance and surrender to the fact that for this part of my life, at this moment in time, this is what was happening. Now, this helped me to relax. And obviously, if you're feeling anxious, you're in fight or flight, you are far from relaxed. So my second thing that I did when I started to feel really anxious was just take a second to ground myself and fully just accept the situation that I was in. The third thing that I did was a little bit woo-woo and a little bit out there, but it worked for me. Now, I fully believe that the right things come to us at the right time. Sometimes it's hard to accept, but it's true. And at the time, I came across a book called The Universe Has Your Back by Gabrielle Bernstein. This is a fantastic book that I recommend to all of my clients that I'm coaching. I've even mentioned about it in the female empowerment community on Facebook to my ladies. So in this book, Gabrielle Bernstein says that when we're feeling lost, when we're feeling overwhelmed, maybe we're stressed and anxious, we can always ask the universe for a sign. Now, she chooses the sign of an owl. That means something for her. For me personally, I chose the representation of a ladybird. Now, if you want to look at the spiritual meaning of a ladybird, it really is nice. It's all about female empowerment and lady luck. So I didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew that I had to get past this anxiety. I had to be okay again, if not for myself, then for my children. So I picked the sign of a ladybird, and guess what? Every time I was really struggling with something, or every time I needed that reassurance that the universe had my back, I would, sure enough, see a ladybird. Now, I know some people are probably listening to this and going, okay, that is absolute nonsense. But the only thing you can do is test it out for yourself. The ladies in my empowerment group have tested this out and had some amazing results. It not only worked for me, but it also worked for a couple of my friends. I was doing some card readings about a year after all of this had happened, and I did a card reading for a friend of mine and said, do you know what, you can borrow my spiritual sign of a ladybird. And sure enough, in cold, horrible December, he saw before him the next day a ladybird. It will always come up when you need it the most. So give it a go and let me know if it works for you. Now, these 3 tips that I've just mentioned are band-aids. They are not getting to the root cause of what is causing you to have the anxiety in the first place. When we have unwanted feelings, it's a sign that somewhere within us there is a belief that isn't working for us. And it's working privately with my clients or on my new course, Level Up Your Life, that I go deeper and explore the issues that are making us have the feelings and the experiences that we are having. Now, I wish that I could say that this is a magic pill or a magic wand, but it's not. We really have to do the work on ourselves when we want to progress forward and level up in our lives. Just like if you were trying to lose weight, it doesn't happen overnight. There's steps that you have to take in order to get where you need to be. But I hope that those 3 tips have helped you. Please like, share and comment on this video, and I will see you again next week for episode 3 of the Level Up Your Life show.